We're here to talk about Spider-Man 2002, Tobey Maguire. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. So this might be a long one. So let's get started.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
So we open the movie. We're back in 2002. We open the movie and we get the staple title sequence that's overly long. It's like 3 minutes. I timed it. It's long. Peter narrates about being a loser. He's like, "Who am I? You sure you want to know? The story of my life is not for the faint of heart." Peter, I don't care. Go be a nerd somewhere else. And then he's like trying to get on the bus because he's late. And even the bus driver is in on not letting this boy on the bus. What did he do for them to hate him so much? Like, he had to have done something. Like, everybody hates him. Like, then he finally gets on the bus because MJ's like a party pooper. And nobody will let him sit. Even the other nerds. They just won't let him sit next to each other. And then they trip him and all laugh. So they're taking the bus. They're going on a field trip to Midtown Science. And they're all outside the building. And this is where we meet the teacher that looks younger than all of them. I don't know how this man is a teacher, because he looks like he's in high school. And the rest of them look like they're undercover cops. So then we see MJ wave, and Peter thinks she's waving to him, but she's waving to someone behind him, which, like, I feel like everybody's done at least once. I did it the other day. It was even a stranger that waved to me too. I don't know why I thought they were waving to me. So we meet Norman and Harry. Harry pulls up in the Rolls Royce or whatever. I don't know cars. Please don't judge me. And so they have a talk about how Harry's been kicked out of every private school he's ever been to, and now he's at a public school. Harry gets out. He goes up to Peter, and Harry has forgotten his bag, so Norman brings it up. And this is where we get, "Peter, I'd like you to introduce my father, Norman Osborn." Why do you introduce your father? First and last name. It's so formal. Like, I don't think any kid introduces their dad that way. And then we get...
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
And then Peter's like...
I read all your research on nanotechnology. Really brilliant.
And, you know, they have a little nerd conversation. And Norman's, like, really impressed with Peter. And you can see he's like, "I'd rather have this kid be my son than my actual son." And it's sad for Harry, but, like, Harry's kind of a bitch. So they go in. They go into the Midtown Science, and they're looking at genetically designed super spiders. Peter gets bullied, and the teacher comes out and threatens, like, all their lives. And he's like...
The next person who talks will fail this course. I kid you not.
It's so aggressive. This teacher is, like, overcompensating for looking younger than the rest of them. But the rest of them look like narcs. So then Peter says some nerd shit to Harry, and Harry's like, "Why do you think I would want to know that?" And then they look at MJ. Peter spies MJ with his creepy eyes. And Harry's like, "Why don't you go talk to her?" And he's like, "Why don't you?" So he does. He's a bad friend. Harry's a bad friend and breaks the bro code and goes and talks to her. Uses the same line that, like, the science trivia that Peter gave Harry that Harry didn't care about.
Do you know that this is the largest electron microscope on the eastern seaboard?
Harry's a bad fucking friend. So the class moves on. Peter takes pictures of MJ. Boom. Boom. Bit by the spider. And then we cut to Oscorp, where we see Norman is under pressure to get the super soldier serum, as I'm calling it. It's a performance enhancer. And His partner tells the board of directors that they need to take the whole thing back to formula. And then Norman says,
Back to formula.
there's so much quotable shit in this movie. I love it. So we cut back to Peter's house where we meet Aunt Bay and Uncle Ben has a vendetta with computers because this is 2002 and he's old. Then Peter comes home and he's like, I'm not hungry, I don't feel well, and then goes to bed. And like, obviously these old people would be very worried about your son, surrogate son, whatever. So then we cut back to Oscorp. Where we see they're testing the soldier serum on Norman because they need results. So Norman gets really rude and takes the drug and smashes the glass all over the ground. What a dick. And then he says some really pretentious shit. He's like,
40,000 years of evolution and we barely even tapped the vastness of human potential.
so Norman flatlines and then the goblin is born and his colleague dies.
It's cold.
So then we cut back to the Parker residence. Peter wakes up. He's all buff and he doesn't need his glasses anymore. He looks at himself in the mirror for a few minutes and then all of a sudden Aunt May is like, are you alright? And he's like,
Yeah. Big change.
Peter leaves for school and like follows MJ. I know the neighbors, but like he's keeping like a distance from her and like tailing her. It's weird. So then he's like working up the courage to ask her out. He misses the bus because he's trying to figure out what to say to MJ and he's oblivious. And then his sticky fingers grab the paper banner that's attached to the bus. Spider powers are coming. So we cut back to Norman's penthouse. There's a lot of cutting around here because they're mirroring the origins. It's visual. No, it's not visual storytelling. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, we cut back to Norman's penthouse, and I noticed a nice little detail where all the walls are green. I'm sure everyone's noticed this. It's all the walls are green, foreshadowing that he's going to become the Goblin. That's visual storytelling. People come in and they're like, the flight suit and the glider have been stolen, and Dr. Strom's been murdered. So we cut back to school. Peter is eating lunch, and he catches MJ as she falls from slipping in a puddle of, I think, pudding. It's brown. I don't really want to know. She notes that he doesn't have glasses anymore and that his eyes are super blue. And he just says nothing and smiles at her like a creep. He's so awkward. It's gross. It makes like me physically ill. He notices like a fork is stuck in his hand and like a web comes out of it. And then he accidentally webs the tray and then throws the tray back and it hits Flash, who's sitting behind him. So then Flash gets mad. But side note. How do all these kids not know he's Spider-Man? There's webs coming out of his hands. So then Flash follows him out into the hallway. And he's like, so they go to fight and Flash is like, and Peter's all like,
I don't want to fight you, Flash.
and then Flash is all like,
I wouldn't want to fight me neither.
okay. Peter beats Flash. So then we see that Peter ran out and now he's ditching class because now he's a hooligan. And he's in an alleyway because he's a hooligan. And you see little spiky hairs come out of his fingers. It's really gross. And you get that iconic shot of him climbing up the wall for the first time. And then Peter starts jumping from building to building. He tries to shoot a web like he did before, but is confused about which superhero he is.
Shazam!
So face plants into a building. And then we cut back, it's nighttime, he goes home. And you have a conversation with Peter and MJ in the backyard. And then she leaves, gets in a car. Peter decides that's when he gets the idea to make money to get a car to impress her. So he sees a wanted ad in the paper for wrestling, and it says $3,000 for 3 minutes. Peter sketches out a costume, and it's a really nice montage. Peter practices shooting webs in his room and shit. Aunt May hears the ruckus, comes upstairs, and his excuse is he isn't dressed yet. Making it worse for yourself. making it worse. Then we cut back to Norman, and we have a little interaction with him and Goblin where you just hear the laugh. We see Uncle Ben wants to drive Peter to the library. We get the iconic, with great power comes great responsibility. And then Peter's response is basically, "You're not my dad." Rude. Peter goes to wrestle, and then we meet Bonesaw. And then Bruce Campbell is the announcer. Legend. Icon. Bruce Campbell. Remember the Spider-Man video games where he would just taunt you? So Peter's getting ready to fight, and he notices his last opponent, Bonesaw's last opponent, is now missing a leg. What kind of wrestling is this? He's missing a leg. Bruce Campbell gives him the name Spider-Man, and then Peter realizes it's a cage match. Bonesaw says,
"I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of heat time."
Ew. And then Peter decides he's going to get homophobic with him and says,
That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you?
Peter beats Bonesaw. He gets the money, but he didn't make 3 minutes, so he gets ripped off and makes $100 instead of $3,000. Burglar comes in and robs the guy as Peter leaves. Peter lets the guy go. The cop says, What the hell is the matter with you? You let him go. He's a civilian for all you know. You're going to endanger him? You're on the job. Peter says,
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Peter goes outside to meet Uncle Ben, but Uncle Ben already got capped. He went boom, got capped. Peter ugly cries for a bit, and Uncle Ben says his last words, which are, Peter ugly cries some more, and Uncle Ben just drops dead because he's sick of Tobey Maguire being an ugly crier. Peter decides to go after the carjacker and realizes it's the same dude from earlier that he let go. Peter lets the guy trip and fall out a window, and he dies. Now we cut to, so Norman blows it up, boom. And then we cut in a masterful transition to graduation. The explosion and debris becomes graduation caps as they fall. It's really good. So then we get a weird scene where Norman congratulates Peter, and then it was like, says to Harry, "So you made it. I've been proven wrong before." Like, all right, dick. Harry walks away disappointed and sees that MJ and Flash break up. So Peter and Aunt May then go home from graduation, and he says that he missed Uncle Ben and ugly cries some more. Spider-Man montage with the suit reveal. Beautiful. We see these interviews in this cinema verite style where the interviewees talk directly to the camera. It's whack. And then they speculate on who Spider-Man is. And my favorite quote is,
"He stinks and I don't like him."
I want to know more about him. Sony's making all these spin-offs. I want to know more about that dude. Where's that movie? You're making a movie with Bad Bunny about a one-off villain, and you can't make this guy? Now we meet the best character in this series, J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons. And so he hates Spider-Man.
Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man.
We learned that he hates Spider-Man already because he wears a mask. They say Eddie has been on the job for weeks trying to get pictures of Spider-Man, which none of them meet Eddie until 3, and they're acting like they already know an Eddie Brock. So in my head, it's they knew Eddie Brock, but he's so insufferable, they pretend like they don't know him when he comes around. I think that's fun. J. Jonah Jameson then says,
If we can get a picture of Julia Roberts in a thong, we can certainly get a picture of this weirdo.
Peter then runs into MJ, who's about to leave on a date, and we learn that she is dating Harry, which entirely breaks the bro code. And Peter and Harry are now living together, and how does Peter not know this? Do Harry and MJ not, have sex? I'm genuinely curious, because, Later, she swerves him with a kiss too. I don't get it. This is probably the least weird conversation they have in the movie. So then we cut back to Peter and Harry's apartment where Norman is doing weekly inspections. But, like, they're in college. Like, let them have fun. Why do you gotta be like this? I do like Harry's nickname for him, though, Storm and Norman. Harry suggests that Peter work at Oscorp because he had just been fired from Dr. Connors. And Norman looks as giddy as a schoolgirl, and Peter rejects the offer and says he wants to make his own way. And Peter gets the idea to take pictures of Spider-Man for the Bugle. Then we get the montage of Peter getting photos. Jeez! And then Peter meets JJ to give him the photos, and then we get crap, mega crap. I'll give you $200 for all of them. So then we cut back to Oscorp, and Norman learns the board of directors is selling a company. And then Norman's all like,
But you can't do this to me.
all the the internet has ruined this for me, but I love it. So we cut. We're at the Unity Day Festival, where pop star Macy Gray is performing, who wasn't even relevant when this movie came out again. Peter is taking photos for the Bugle, but he sees Harry and MJ. Harry's butthurt because MJ wore a red dress instead of a black. Harry's fucking whack. He's a whack boyfriend. I don't know what else to say about it. He's a whack friend. He's a whack boyfriend. He's just a whack individual. The Goblin arrives. He blows up the board of directors and turns them into skeleton. And then in the explosion, like, debris is everywhere, and MJ is stuck on a piece of debris. And then as he throws the bomb to them, he's like, "Out am I?" It's fun. I like quoting this movie. And then we get the next 15 seconds are like the most unhinged shit I have ever seen.
Hello, my dear.
It's Spider-Man!
Spider-Man swings in, knocks him off his glider, and then we get Norman heavy mouth breathe out of a balloon as another balloon falls on a kid, and the kid won't move for whatever reason. He just wants to let the balloon fall on him. It's whack. So then we cut back. So then Peter there's a big fight. Peter then saves MJ, and they have a chat for a minute, and then he leaves and screams woohoo like a maniac. Maybe Jameson is actually right about him. Then we cut back to Harry's apartment, where Harry's jealous of Spider-Man, and then overcompensates by buying MJ's affection. Harry's just gross. Harry then apologizes to Peter for not telling him that him and MJ are dating. Harry is a bad friend. I don't know how else to put this. I don't know how Sam Raimi wants to put this. I would love to talk to him about this choice. But Harry is so insufferable. So then we cut back to Norman's penthouse, where we get the mirror conversation between him and Goblin. And it's Willem Dafoe's just killing it. He's killing it. And then we cut back to the Daily Bugle. And basically Green Goblin shows up, and he's looking for the photographer that takes the pictures of Spider-Man, and JJ covers for Peter. So Peter goes to change to be Spider-Man, and he's all like, and then he shows up, and then he's like, "Speak of the devil," and then he sedates Spider-Man by going, and then we cut to a rooftop later at night, and we learn Spider-Man is temporarily paralyzed, so Goblin can try to convince him to join. So the way he tries to convince him is he slaps him on the forehead and says,
Here's the real truth.
They chat about ideology, blah blah blah, no one really gives a shit, and then he then screams in his face,
Think about it, hero!
"You're really gonna win this kid over." So then we cut again, and Peter sees the Daily Bugle, and it says Spider-Man wanted, and he thinks that maybe Goblin could be right. He's not. And then Peter runs up to MJ and tells her the creepiest shit, where he's like,
I took 2 buses and a cab to get in the neighborhood.
why would you tell her that? It's not cute. Like, it's gross and creepy. Ugh. And then MJ leaves to go on a date with Harry, and then some hooligans get all rapey with her in an alley. Spider-Man beats them up. We get MTV's 2002's Best Kiss Award nomination. I think it was the winner. It's just so iconic. It's like, you see that kiss, you know what movie it's from, you know? The upside down kiss. So then we cut to I believe it's the next day, it's a burning building, and Spider-Man swings in and saves a baby. He brings the baby out, and the cop says, "I'll be here when you get back." And Spider-Man goes, "I'm not coming back, Chief." And goes back up into the building, where he hears a woman yelling.
It's okay!
So he goes up to the woman with the cloak on. He goes to touch him. Turns around, it's Goblin. He's screaming in his face. And then he punches him. So, like, his thought process was, let me pretend to be an old lady so I can scare the shit out of him. And then ask him if he still wants to join my team. So Spider-Man rejects the offer. And they have a little fight. And Spider-Man's all like, "It's you who's out, Gobby.
Out of your mind."
So then, it's then revealed, we cut to Harry and Peter's apartment, that it's Thanksgiving, making Spider-Man an official Thanksgiving movie. We have very few of those. But Spider-Man is one of them. Bite me on it. Bite me. So, Harry, MJ, and Aunt May are setting up for Thanksgiving. And Norman arrives, and he says,
I'm sorry I'm late. Work was murder.
So then they hear a noise, and they thought Peter wasn't home, but it's coming from Peter's room. So they all go up there, and then you get the scene where Peter's blood falls from the cut, and Norman hears it and like looks around the room. It's really it's a really nice, tense scene that I really enjoy. Peter comes in from the front door later, and he's like, "Hey everyone, sorry I'm late. It was a jungle out there. I had to beat an old lady with a stick to get these cranberries." This movie's so quotable. And then so they sit down for Thanksgiving. Aunt May and Norman have weird sexual tension, but it's interrupted when Aunt May notices Peter's from the cut. Norman sees the cut, and then it all clicks. Norman leaves, and Harry goes to talk to Norman. He insults MJ, and then MJ leaves dinner, so dinner is essentially ruined. Wasted food. And then, so Goblin and Norman have a discussion about the revelation Peter's Spider-Man, and he goes and attacks Aunt May. He so unhinged that he laughs and makes Aunt May finish her prayer.
Finish it! Finish it!
After he's blown up her house. Aunt May's in the hospital. Peter realizes that the Goblin knows. Still not knowing the Goblin is Norman. MJ comes to visit, and they talk about Spider-Man. MJ then asks if this superhero who saves a lot of people has mentioned her. And, Peter's gotta, be a simp and say, he says something, it's so, like, whack. He says something like, I wrote it down. He's like, when you look into her eyes, I felt alive, but also dead, but excited, but also not excited, and happy, but also sad. It doesn't make any sense. And then Harry walks in. For some reason, MJ is like turned on by this and holds his hand. And then Harry walks in. Harry rushes out of there like a little brat. Goes home, says that Norman was right about everything. Norman and him hug. And then Peter realizes something's wrong and MJ's been kidnapped. So he picks up a payphone and calls MJ's phone. And Goblin answers and he's like, can Spider-Man come out to play? So then they go to the bridge, you know, like in the comics, like in the bridge where Gwen Stacy got her neck snapped, like that. And then Goblin gives him an ultimatum where he's like, let MJ die or suffer the little children. So he just drops both because he's so unhinged. Peter manages to save both. There's a big fight. That Tom Holland could never have.
Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark. Hey, Mr. Stark, what should I do?
Tom Holland could never have this. It's really bloody. Boom, boom. Bomb goes off in Peter's face. And then Peter, you know, gets the upper hand, beats Norman. As Norman's impaled on his glider.
Oh.
And he's like, don't tell Harry. Peter brings Norman home, and Harry walks in and pulls out a gun. And then we cut to a funeral because every good Spider-Man movie ends in a funeral. And then we get the final swing. And that is Spider-Man 2002. A film that defines cinema in every way. Twilight who? Robert Pattinson who? Tobey Maguire. I love it. Yeah, I'm going to do all of these. I mean, we'll see if we do TASM. But I'm definitely doing all three of these. Hope you guys enjoyed.